How's it going, everybody? Welcome to today's stick mobility class. I am Coach Ray, and as usual, thank you for joining me for today's class. So today's class is going to be a little different. It's going to be a little interesting. We're only going to use one short stick for all our drills for today. Now, the main thing we're going to be actually be focusing on is going to be spine and shoulder specific drills. So we're going to be working a lot on spinal health, working on the shoulders, trying to keep those shoulders mobile and relatively strong. So we're also going to need a band, like a small band, one that's not super strong for us to kind of work with, because we just really want to work on positioning, but also making sure we're getting the right amount of activation in the right tissues. So that's going to be fun. And we're also going to need a kettlebell. Now the kettlebell is just going to simply be there to add a little bit more challenge to that position, but we're also going to be using it in some of our mobilization drills. So let's go ahead and get started first. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off with loosening up that spine a bit. So we're going to do a standing version of a camel. Now from here, I'm going to have the bottom of the stick angled in towards me slightly. It's roughly about 6 inches in front of the line of my toes here. Now I'm going to have both hands roughly about chest height. So let's go with your right hand stacked over your left hand. Okay. Now from here, I'm going to have my arms straight. I'm going to very lightly drive the stick down into the floor, about 20%, and I'm going to reach out, driving my hips back, trying to get as much extension as I can here. Now from this position, I'm going to start flexing my spine or going into spinal flexion. So I'm going to start on my low back. So I'm going to tuck my pelvis, get my lower back into spinal flexion, and then work up through the rest of the spine. Doesn't need to be a big movement. Now we're going to go anterior tilt. So I'm going to get curvature in my lower back and then extend through the rest of the spine here. We're going to go into flexion again. So move at the lower back first. Try to get as much rounding in the spine as you can manage. And then extend. Make sure you're breathing. Go into flexion. And extension. Wonderful. We're going to slowly come back up and ease off. Wonderful. Now we're going to still be in that same position. Let's go ahead and switch our hands. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do a rotational drill. So I'm going to turn to the side. I'm going to turn forward more so. And I'm going to have my feet are roughly about hip to shoulder width apart. Toes are going to be pointed forward. Stick is lined up with our center line here. Now I'm going to have my left hand stacked over my right. Now my hands are still at chest height. Now from here, we're going to get back into that same position. However, we're going to change something. I'm going to take my left hand and put it on the back of the stick. So I want the back of my palm facing towards me here. Now from this position, I want to actively drive that left hand out, and I'm going to reflexively lightly pull back with that right. So I'm creating some tension on the stick, and I'm going to hinge, driving the stick out. And now, so my left hand's up top, I'm going to rotate the stick over to my left. Now I have both arms extended, and I want to keep both elbows in extension here. I'm going to hold this position. I'm going to come back to center, and we're going to do that again. Rotate to the left. You want to get those shoulders over. You want your head over your shoulders. And now from here, take a deep breath in. Exhale, drop your right shoulder down towards the bottom of the stick. You're going to get a nice big stretch in that T-spine. Bring the stick back forward. Let's go again. Drive that left hand out nice and hard. Deep breath in. Exhale. Good. Bring the stick forward. Let's go one more time. Rotate to the left. Drive that left hand out. Deep breath in. Exhale. Wonderful. Back to center and up. Good. Ease off. We're going to switch sides. So you should be feeling, especially as you're dropping that shoulder going down towards the floor, you should be feeling an increased stretch and demand on that spine. And we're adding that tension in by creating that push-pull force. So So it's gonna be a little bit more effective long term. So we're gonna go do that same thing. Now we're gonna have our right hand on top, left hand on the bottom, driving that stick out with that right hand, lightly pulling back with the left. We're gonna hinge, rotate, stick over to the right, breathe. Excellent. Bring it back forward. Rotate to the right again. Deep breath in. Exhale. Rotate back forward. Let's go 2 more. Drive that right hand out. Deep breath in. Exhale. Let's go 1 more time. Rotate. Deep breath in. Exhale. Back forward. And up. Ease off. Wonderful. Now we're going to take the stick. We're going to place it across our lower chest here. And we're going to go with a staggered stance. So this is just to kind of lock that front leg into position. And what we're actually going to do, we're going to do this from a standing position. And then we're actually going to add in utilizing a kettlebell to add a little bit more weight, a little bit more tension, and we'll kind of go into some details about that drill in a little bit. So I'm going to have the stick. I'm going to reach out with both hands, and I have my fingertips on the ends of the stick here. My right foot is forward, and I want to make sure I'm driving that big toe down, and I want to load that leg. My left foot, my left heel is nice and high, and I want to keep it nice and high here. Now from this position, I'm going to squeeze my left glute to get that hip into extension here. And I'm not creating any compression or pulling force on the stick. It's just in front of the lower chest here. And now I'm going to rotate to my right. And now I'm going to push my left arm across. I'm going to come back forward. Now I'm going to rotate to the left, driving my left arm across. So we're getting rotation both ways. Back to center, rotate to the right, drive that left arm across. Try to stay as balanced as you can. Back to center. And now to the left, drive that right arm across. Back to center and ease off. So you're gonna feel a lot of movement in the rib cage, which you should. You might be feeling that lat and those obliques activate. Again, that's good and that's okay. If you start cramping, don't be afraid to come out of it. So now we're gonna go left foot forward, right foot back. We're not taking a really huge split. Load that front leg here. Have that right heel up, nice and high. Squeeze that right glute. Now I'm gonna start by rotating to my left. Drive that right arm across. Back to center. Rotate to the right. Drive that left arm across. Back to center. You shouldn't be getting any movement from that low back or hips. Rotate to the left. Back to center. And rotate to the right. Back to center. And ease off. Excellent. Now we're going to take a kettlebell. You do not need a heavy kettlebell. You can use a kettlebell or a dumbbell if you actually happen to have one. Now, it's going to be in a front rack position. Okay? That front rack position just keeps it so now it's on this side here. So, or sorry, on the opposite side. So it's good. So the leg that's forward, that is a hand that the kettlebell is actually going to be in, because that is the side we're actually rotating to. Now with our opposite hand, we're going to be trapping that front leg. So we're going to create some tension by driving the leg out into the hand. That glute should fire. And want to keep that light bit of activation. It's not a lot of activation, but just a little bit. And as we work into that rotation, that weight from the kettlebell allows us to add some tension to the rotation, but focusing on breathing is going to be super important here. So we need to work on good diaphragmatic breath. So I'm going to start with my left side first. I'm going to have a kettlebell in this front rack position. You can, again, if you're not comfortable with this position, don't be afraid to use a dumbbell. I'm going to take my right hand and place it across my left knee. I'm going to create some tension, about 20% here. So you should feel a little bit of glute activation. Now from here, I'm going to rotate to my left. Get as much rotation as I can here without any pain. And now I'm going to take 3 deep breaths. So deep breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale. Try to get a little bit more rotation. So I get a little bit more tension here. Deep breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale. Back to center and ease off. Now we're going to switch sides. We'll actually turn to the side here. So now we're going to go with that right leg forward, left leg is back. And again, we want to stay nice and centered here. Make sure we're not getting any movement in the hips, right? No left and right swing, no forward and back movement. We want to try to keep those hips as still as we can here. So I'm going to have the kettlebell in my right hand. Again, to go into that front rack position. From here, I'm going to take my left hand, place it across my right knee. Create some tension, 20%. Now rotate to your right. Good, deep breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale, rotate more. Good. Deep breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale. Back forward and ease off. Excellent. So a relatively simple drill, but pretty effective, particularly working with opening that spine up by adding a little bit of load. So this is going to give a little bit more feedback to the brain here. Now what we're going to do here is where we're going to actually start to combine a little bit of spinal movement along with shoulders. So again, go with a relatively light kettlebell, please. We're actually going to be on the floor here. So we're familiar, if you are familiar, with a Turkish get-up. It's going to kind of start in that position. Now I'm going to scoot over. I'm going to start with the kettlebell in my left hand. So I'm going to roll over, grab the kettlebell with both hands, and then I'm going to pull it over and lock the kettlebell out. Now from this position here, I'm going to have my right leg straight, my left leg's bent, at least it's initially starting bent. I'm going to have my right hand out to the side. I'm going to pick my left leg up, and I'm going to turn my hips over. Now, as I do this, I'm going to keep that kettlebell stacked over my shoulder, and I want to keep that elbow straight. And I'm just going to hold this position here. If you can get that left hip over onto the floor while maintaining a good position, I want you to hold this position here, right? Pulling that shoulder going down towards your back pocket. Now from here, I'm going to roll back over, nice and slow and controlled. Bring it down and roll. Now I'm going to switch sides. So I'm just going to turn around here. I'm going to do that same thing. roll, grab the kettlebell. I'm gonna press it up. Keep your eye on the kettlebell to make sure it's not swaying back and forth. Left hand is out. I'm gonna pick my right leg up and I'm going to turn over. And again, if you can get the right hip onto the floor, then do so. We're just gonna hold this position here. Make sure you're packing that right shoulder, so shoulder down towards the hip. Excellent. We're gonna ease off. So come back over, bring it down, and we're gonna switch again. Now this time, we're actually gonna add in a little bit of rotation. So I'm gonna go back to that left side again, pick up the kettlebell, press it out, right hand's over, left leg comes up and over. If you can, get that hip down. Now from here, we're gonna start to rotate the shoulder. So I'm going to externally rotate, keeping that elbow locked out. Now I'm gonna internally rotate as much as I can. Good. Externally rotate. Good. Internally rotate. One more time. Externally rotate. And internally rotate. Back to center. Gonna slowly roll back and ease off. Let's go ahead and switch sides again. And you want to kind of pay attention to how your shoulders are feeling. If you are getting a lot more tightness, it's not as loose on one side, that is a side you definitely want to put a little bit more work in. You don't have to particularly use this drill, but this is something that you can use to kind of get your shoulders used to being in a loaded position, but also working on that mobility. So roll over, gonna press the weight up. Roll over, eye on the kettlebell here. You're gonna notice a little bit of difference on one side versus the other. Just kind of keep that in mind. So we're gonna externally rotate. And you want that movement to come from the shoulder. Now we're gonna internally rotate. Externally rotate. Internally rotate. One more time each way. Externally rotate. And internally rotate. Back to center. Gonna roll back over. Back down. And ease off. Good.
Here's what I found.
Now we're gonna work with a little bit of external and internal shoulder rotation. So we're gonna do this in two different ways. We're gonna go with very, very simple ways. One is gonna be working with here, so a little bit of leverage there, and the other hand's gonna be behind our back, using the stick going across the body to get that internal rotation. After that, we're strengthening that shoulder. I want to take my right shoulder, or right elbow, place it on the inside of the stick. Now notice that the bottom of the stick is going towards the bottom, or we're going towards the ground here. And I'm gonna take my right hand and grab, or grasp, the end of it. Now from here, I want to keep that elbow in front of my shoulder as best I can. I don't really want you to be out here. I want you to be directly in front. Now from this position here, just gripping or grasping the end of the stick, I'm gonna take my left hand and I'm going to pull that shoulder in an external rotation. Go until you get a stretch. If you're feeling like your wrist is kind of starting to get a little strained, you can wrap your hand around like so that you don't have to get as much wrist involvement there. So we're gonna hold here, we're gonna hold that stretch. Breathe. We're gonna ease off. We're gonna go back into that stretch again. Pull that left hand across. Get a little bit more external rotation. Now, I'm going to try to internally rotate that right hand, so this kind of motion here. So at that end range, I want to internally rotate about 20%. Keep it nice and light. Breathe. All right, ease off internally rotating. See if you can get a little bit more range. If you do, good. Hold that position. Internally rotate again. 20%, nice and light. Nothing too significant here. 3, 2, 1. Gonna ease off. Nice and easy. This is just kind of warming up that glenohumeral joint. Now we're gonna switch sides, so sticks in the right hand. I'm gonna take my left elbow, place it on the inside, grasp the tip of the stick, or the end of the stick. And now from here, I'm going to pull that right arm across. Now again, this is something you kind of want to pay attention to, is what shoulder feels tighter. So for me, my left shoulder feels tighter, right? You can always work on that side a little extra if you need to. Breathe. Excellent. We're going to ease off. Good. Now we're going to go into it again. Hold. We're going to internally rotate 20%. 3, 2, 1. Ease off internally rotating. See if you can get a little bit more range. Good. Internally rotate again. Nice and easy. 3, 2, 1. Slowly ease off. And excellent. Good. Now we're going to work with that internal rotation like I was talking about. So for this drill, when your hands are behind your back, you want your palm to face away from your body. All right? So this is already going to be internal rotation on that glenohumeral joint. We're going to start on that right side first. So to get in position, I want you to put the stick right along your rib cage or your right side, and it's going to be kind of in the armpit of that right arm. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring that hand down behind my back, like so. You can have your hand at your low back, or you can have your hand even a little bit higher. That just really depends on your range of motion. I'm going to start on my low back here. Now from this position here, with this left hand, the stick is at a point of leverage. So I can actually pull with my left hand a bit, and my elbow is going to come forward, which is going to bring more internal rotation on that right shoulder. Just want to hold this stretch here. Make sure you're breathing. So you're going to feel a little bit of a stretch in that shoulder capsule, okay, on that posterior aspect. Excellent. We're going to ease off. We're going to do that again. Pull that left hand across. Get a nice good stretch. So the elbow ends up almost being in front of the body, or at least lined up with the side. So now what we're going to do from this position, so pulling with that left hand, I'm going to drive my elbow back, so creating some resistance against the stick. Going to hold. 3, 2, 1. Ease off, driving that elbow back. See if you can get a little bit more range. All right, so now we get a little bit more of a stretch on that right shoulder capsule. We're going to drive that right elbow back again. Drive. About 20%, nothing too significant. 3, 2, 1. Ease off. Bring that elbow forward a little more. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ease off. Excellent. Good. Now we're going to switch sides. So we're going to take that left hand, or take the stick, put it right in the elbow, take the left hand, place it behind the back, place the back of your hand against your low back, or wherever's most comfortable for you. Take that right hand on the end of the stick. We're gonna pull, stick across, hold, good. Now we're gonna ease off. Let's go again. Pull that right hand across. Now drive that left elbow back, 20%. Just create a little bit of tension there. Ease off. Pull that arm across, pull the stick across a little more. Get a little more of a stretch. Drive that left elbow back. 3, 2, 1. Ease off, driving that elbow back. Pull that right hand across a little more if you can. 3, 2, 1. Ease off. Bring that hand from behind. Now this is where we grab the band. Now the band is here to help us work on activating those rotator cuff tissues. And so positioning for this, or positioning where your elbows are relative to your wrist, is extremely important. What we don't want is to end up being in this position, right? So as we go through that range of motion, if we're starting here, we want to keep it here the entire time as we're pressing out overhead. At the point where your elbows are more on the outside of your wrist, you're losing that tension, you're losing strength in those tissues, and it might be fatigue, and that's okay. So start with a really, really light band. That's the best advice that I can give. And once you kind of start to get a little stronger, then you can up the band resistance just to make it a little bit more of a challenge. So I'm gonna have the band around my wrist here, okay? And make a fist here. And now what I'm gonna do from this position, and I want my arms at 90 degrees, just about. Now from here, I'm going to externally rotate. So already you're gonna feel some activation in those posterior deltoids, but also those rotator cuffs. Let's just hold this for about 20 seconds. 3, 2, 1, excellent. Ease off. Take a second, move your shoulders around a little bit. Now we're going to start to add in that pressing motion. So if you're worried about your lower body getting too involved, hyperextending at your back, you can do this from a tall kneeling position or a half kneeling position. So we're going to have our feet roughly about hip to shoulder width, toes are pointed forward. Get the hands up again. I'm going to externally rotate, so elbows under the hands. And now I'm going to press the band overhead, pulling that band apart to the full lockout position, and then back down. Down as far as you can. That's 1. Up. Back down. That's 2. One more time. Three. And ease off. Excellent. So see, even with me, struggling a little bit. So if you do like a lot of overhead pressing or any kind of pressing at all, or maybe you feel like you have a little bit of weakness in the posterior aspect of your shoulder, or not that much stability, this is a really, really, really good drill to do before you do realistically any upper body movement. Because particularly if you're doing an overhead press, any kind of vertical or horizontal press, it's a really, really good way to warm up those tissues that are involved with stabilizing that shoulder joint. So let's go ahead and get one more set in. Over here, externally rotate, up. 1, up, 2. One more time. Up. 3. And ease off. Excellent. Good. All right, everybody, that concludes today's stick mobility class. I actually wanted to keep it just a shorter one, just a nice short video to kind of work on the shoulders, some drills that you can do to loosen up the spine, and also work on that shoulder health, trying to keep them strong, trying to keep them active, trying to keep them as mobile as we possibly can. However, I will catch y'all on the next one. As usual, stay safe. Have a good one.